Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Week Ahead, a podcast by SBM Intelligence. I'm your host, Bisolans, and every Saturday, we look at some stories shaping our continent. First, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company has revealed that petrol prices will vary across the country, ranging from 950 naira in Lagos to as high as 1,019 naira in Borno, depending on logistics costs. Also, the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has alerted Nigerians about potential flooding from the regulated water releases at Cameroon's Lagdo Dam. And in international news, the US military has officially withdrawn from Niger after being ordered out by the West African country's ruling junta. Joining me for insights on these stories is Stanley Kechuku, Head of Operations at SBM Intelligence. Welcome, Stanley.
Thank you, please. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let me apologize in advance to all our listeners, just in case we have a slightly choppy network this evening. Yeah, so all right, so going to our first story, which is about the NNPC again. The NNPC announced that it will sell petrol lifted from Dangote refinery at 950 naira. That's going to be like the basic price, which means that prices will vary based on location due to probably transportation cost or logistics cost. So my first question to you, Stanley, is I'm just really concerned because I know that for many years, Nigerians were really excited. We're really looking forward to having a refinery. I think everyone thought that when this refinery comes, it's going to solve majority of our problems, in the fuel sector. But as it is, that is not the case. So, with this Dangote refinery prices coming out, which are even higher than what the NNPC announced, of course, which got a lot of people talking at the time it was announced. Is this going to provide any relief in any way? Is this what we're looking for? Like, is this a positive development, or this is just another problem, that we've added to our list of problems in Nigeria?
So, thank you so much, please, for the question. I agree that the Dangote refinery, is not a problem. It's actually a plus to what we have as a country in terms of oil producing capacity. We have other four refineries that have not produced any crude in a very, very long time. Plus Dangote refinery. There's a reef to call it a reef or, a husband and wife disagreement between NNPC and Dangote for the longest of time now. And the whole thing is just having its effects, in the real play of things. Dangote's refinery is about 650,000 capacity. It means it can produce daily what our national consumption is. Our national consumption is put at about 40 million liters a day. Dangote has the capacity to produce. That's one. Before Dangote was able to get crude, it was fight here and there between Dangote and NNPC. Somehow they are able to sort it. Now, if you look at the cost of producing crude across the globe, it's slightly higher in this part of the world. It's an average of say $3 to $5, per barrel. In a barrel, you have 159 liters of crude in it. So if you translate it to what the situation is here in Nigeria, you see that the cost of producing here is slightly higher, and it could differ due to some other factors around. The size of the refinery can also affect because it will increase the cost of operational costs. And Dangote said this refinery is actually one of the best in the world. It means modern facility. Modern facility also requires, modern knowledge and good pay, which would also affect cost of production. Then the enabling environment is another thing. Nigeria is very hostile to the business community. The infrastructures are not good, the roads are bad, we don't have lights. A lot of factors just against the business environment in Nigeria. If we also look at policies, government policies, it's not favorable to a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses are shutting down. So to have Dangote still standing, it means that he has the capacity to do. NNPC should encourage him to do so. But my point now is adding all these other, it would definitely affect the cost of producing crude here in Amos, especially and again, it's a new business. So these challenges will come, but in a environment, it makes sense for proper competition. That would then drive the price, of petrol. But as other smaller refineries, come up here and there, they'll be able to compete and service their own region very well. If NNPC is saying fuel price will not sell at the same price across, but it means that subsidy is then gone. Because what we used to have before is that the cost of fuel in Lagos is the same cost of fuel in Maiduguri, and that's a very long distance. Now, if you live closer to where refinery or where refining products are, if you live closer to the refinery, the cheapest it is for you to buy access. If you live far away from the refinery, it means you have to pay more for it. So now, if Kano would pay 1,000 naira for a liter of fuel and Lagos is paying 950 according to NNPC, then it shows that truly the subsidy is gone. But let's just be hopeful and see how the following weeks and months would reveal itself.
All right. So, like you said, it seems the NNPC and Dangote Refinery, they've both had a very toxic relationship. And people are wondering like why exactly. I mean, it should be like a good development, and just seems like there's just been this conflict on and on, going on and on. Yeah. So the NNPC said that they don't intend to become they don't intend to become the sole distributor or like for Dangote Refinery or the sole of taker. And apparently, they also don't want to influence Dangote Refinery's prices. Do you think that this is something they'll be able to keep up based on, especially if you consider like how the relationship has been for the past few months?
NNPC has said, rather, NNPC has said a lot of things that we find it difficult to even believe whatever they are saying, now, even if they are saying the truth. We've had so more than four occasions when they said the refinery in Port Harcourt to start producing, blah, blah, blah. We've had a lot of stories from the NNPCL. So whatever they are telling us now, for me, I don't believe so much until we see the real outcome in the physical world. That's when I think I can take NNPC serious.
All right. So I'm thinking of the potential crisis that could result from prices that are not uniform. So if people in Lagos and that state are having like 900 and something naira, then we have in Borno having over 1,000 naira, which of course these prices, they have the potential to increase. So if there are varying prices across the country, isn't this going to lead to regional crises? I mean, even that the fact that we're looking forward to an election soon, won't people in the north feel like they're being cheated, even though it's based on logistics cost? What do you think would be the result of these prices that are not uniform?
The free market is about, and I don't think anybody should be surprised. Crude, or rather fuel price, has been selling at different prices for a very long time. If you go down south and I mean the east and some part of the south, they buy crude. I mean they buy for what am I always calling crude? They buy fuel, for over 1,000 naira, and they've been buying it like that for a very, very long time. The same thing if you go to some part of the north, the prices have never been uniform for a very long time. I don't think it would cause any regional problem. It also opens avenue for indigenous investors in various states to also take up roles to see how they can situate, even if it's a modular refinery for their own side, and see how they can bargain with the government to get crude. Because there's a law that says that local refineries will get as much as 400,000 barrels of crude. So it brings up other opportunity. If you want to be competitive, these are the circumstances around it. Fortunately, Lagos will enjoy the best of competition. The standard of living here will probably be more cheaper if you when you compare it to other parts of Nigeria with this current price of petrol.
All right. So we've always, at least in SBM, we've always advocated for the removal of subsidies. But the way I'm looking at Nigerian economic environment, the prices will keep escalating and things will still will keep going higher and higher. How do you think there are any strategies the Nigerian government can employ to just ensure that fuel prices do not go too high? And I'm never talking about subsidies now, like maybe anything they can do for the economic environment or even for considering Dangote refinery that just came up, just to address socioeconomic inequalities and mitigate the impact of rising prices on the population that is already reeling from high prices generally. Hello, Stanley, I can't
Yeah,
hear.
hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. All right, thank you.
I can hear you. Okay. So you were saying the last question.
Oh, okay, okay. I think you missed that. Yeah, so I was saying that we've always advocated in
Yeah.
SBM against the keeping of fuel subsidies. So I was saying that are there any strategies Nigerian governments can employ to ensure that the skyrocketing, just escalating fuel prices to not, uh, uh, affect Nigerian population more than it is already, doing, because as it is, the prices will keep going up. So I'm just asking, like, is there a way to just douse the impact of these rising prices?
So yeah, there are a lot of ways. There are a couple of ways that it can be done, but I'm not saying I know the way. But what I want to say is that this government has not shown capacity to even be interested in making things easy for the poor people. So there could be ways. I know there are ways to make, to see how you balance this that it doesn't shoot up prices and skyrocket other cost of living. There are ways. Now, what Nigeria is going through today, Nigeria is not the first country that is going through it. Nigeria will not be the last country that will go through it. That is why we can always look out to other countries that are similar to us, who have gone through similar situations, and how did they come out of it. Number one, leadership. The quality of leaders that we have do not have the capacity. Even if they do have the capacity, they might not have the political power. Even if they have the political power, they don't even have the intention to even make life better for Nigerians. We can go back and go on and on and on to say that things are expensive, but the government is rather buying private jets, buying luxury cars, and all of those things. Any that tell you that the people in our problem, that person is lying. What I know is that the people in government know what our problem is or are. They have the solution. At least they have people around that they can talk to, special advisors and technocrats and the like, but they do not care. It is simple. They do not care and they do not care. That is why we're still in this we are in today. If we get the right kind of leaders, I don't think it will take Nigeria this long, to start driving in the right path. So I have a problem with the capacity of the current administration. So even if there are solutions, I don't think they are ready to toe that line. So that's my take on it.
All right. So we're going to speak more on leadership in this next story, which is about flooding. So recently, I just want to talk about the recent one, which happened in Maiduguri, where over 300,000 people were displaced due to flooding. Uh, so now the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has said that Nigerians should expect floods because a dam in Cameroon is planning regulated water releases into the country. So, although they are assuring Nigerians that the water will be gradually released and they will do it in such a way as to make sure that it's not exceeding River Benue's capacity and all of that, just making it look like, okay, this situation is under control. But can we believe this? I mean, shouldn't Nigerians be scared considering that for a very long time, we've been having several like more floods upon floods, and Nigerian government has not been able to do anything about it. What are like the potential implications of this particular exercise they're about to carry out on Nigerians? Should Nigerians just relax, like, yeah, they have it under control? Or is this something to really, really worry about?
Hmm, that's a very dicey question. Um, so the issue of flood is also not new to us here in Nigeria. I think almost all the problems of the world that the world have been able to take care of, they're still rocket science for us in this part of the world. From our last conversation, I said leadership was a big problem. It still will bring us to the issue of leadership. I don't understand why you continue to suffer the same kind of problem and you cannot mitigate it. You cannot put in the right policies. You cannot be proactive about it. You know, the flooding that displaced a lot of people in Borno State, it's something that could have been controlled. If from the previous years that we've been having flooding, the government has decided to focus on how to make sure that things like this do not happen, we'll not be having most of this mess. Now, the jam in Cameroon said they would systematically do it, release certain millions little by little. I think they should have, if that has been done, then kudos to them. But I don't know. But a lot of dredging should be happening now to either deepen the space so that it could take the passage of the water could take more water without even flooding the entire environment. I think some of those kind of action should be what should be going on right now. If Nigeria should believe them or not, to be honest with you, I think everybody should answer their father's name at this point in time. We select all kinds of leaders, and if the repercussion is what it is, unfortunately, I think we should then face reality because we brought these people in. I hope that we would learn from this consistent bad government that we've had and look forward come 2027 to elect the right kind of leaders. I just hope that the government will take this Cameroon dam thing under serious control so that we don't have a repeat of what happened in Medjugorje, Borno State recently.
Yeah, so I'm still going to probe your leadership. Yeah, so there was a particular news that made the rounds during the Maiduguri flooding, when it was still really like a hot topic. I believe it's still a hot topic anyway. All right, so the vice president announced that he was going to distribute rice to the residents of Borno. And honestly, I'm just like, okay, okay, okay. Is it trying to address? Because I know that when there's flooding, then there's also food security crisis because people who have no access to food, they will not be able to walk or buy things or carry on the activities as they normally do. So is this the vice president looking at, okay, let's address the food insecurity happening now, or is it just lack of awareness, as to just know, okay, this is the root of the problem. Let's address this. Let's know how to maybe take these people to a safer place or do something to address the flood problem. What do you think?
The easiest solutions to solving most of our problem, according to the government of this country, consistently has always been rice. There was not comedy. There was a video that somebody uploaded some time ago that said every problem Nigeria has, rice is the solution. When the masses complain about poor healthcare, the government provides rice. When they complain about poor education, rice, bad road, rice, protest, rice, it's becoming like rice. There's something about rice that we're not seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like you also said, and I want to agree with you that it's flooding. People have been displaced. You know, it would it would create food problems in those places. So maybe providing rice for situations like this makes sense. Maybe mixing with other kind of food. So now I'm looking at nutrition. If you have to provide food and it's just rice, rice, rice all the time to solve problems, I think the government can as well add beans, and add some other food staples so that at least people get nutritional and well balanced food. On the flooding, yes, it does make sense. Some of the other people who have donated to this situation, the UAE donated food items too. I think the UN donated like $6 million. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar donated 100 million. Senator Palau also donated around 250 million. and Dangote gave out 1.5 billion. Then the Dandata Group also donated about 1.5 billion. So the monies could actually be used to relocate some of them or relieve or settle some of the issues around them. So I think those other donors, what they did was a welcome development. I just hope the resources are going to be properly managed so that people who actually need this relief get this relief. I hope it's not a situation where most of those relief items, materials, and money will be diverted for personal gains or personal reasons. Yeah.
All right. So another major issue from the Maiduguri flooding was the escape of inmates. I think over 200, or is it 300 inmates escaped when that happened. And for many people, this is a source of concern because we know Borno to be the hotbed of Boko Haram. There was really a time when that was the place that was really, really very much affected by Boko Haram. And I'm just thinking that with the escape of these people, first of all, okay, maybe before we talk about the potential security crisis, can we just talk about the fact that these prisons, no risk assessment was carried out, how easy it was for these inmates to just escape, where there are no prison wardens, no security whatsoever to guard. What do you think? What does this say about Nigerian I just really wanted to speak to just the facility, the security of the buildings, and before we start talking about potential security crisis, how this will affect citizens when inmates like that escape.
Mm, thank you. I agree with me that this is or like Borno, there's been other cases of jailbreak in Nigeria. We've had one in Imo, we had one in Edo, we've had in I can't remember, but it's not fresh news to us. It's been happening. The risk assessment that you're talking about, why have all these things not been checked? Again, this is not me wanting to blame anybody, but if you look at how prison services are being managed and run in other parts of the world, you would know that Nigeria is actually not serious in terms of the correctional facilities. I've visited the Kirikiri prison, and some of what I saw there were not what standard prison should look like. Irrespective of whoever is there, some people there are actually victims. A lot of people in prison don't even what they are doing in Nigerian prison. Stayed the A lot of people are now waiting trial that if judgment has been passed on them and they've been given years in sentence, they would have out they would have done their sentences and they would have been out by now. But a lot of them are still there on a waiting trial, and there's nothing that the government is really doing to see that these people on a waiting trial can get judgment and do their time and find their way. If there's a way the government can you know bring them back. I don't think Nigeria is a not Nigeria. The Nigerian government is proactive in some of this situation. The Borno situation is rather unfortunate, but the fabric of the country is affected across every part of this country.
All right. So now I wanted to comment on what do you think will happen now that these inmates are out? They are now like moving amongst the citizens. Are we going to see an increase in violence and conflicts in Maiduguri, or do you think this will just be a normal event that will not actually move the needle in any way?
Mm, I'm sure they would. I heard that they've recaptured some of them. Maybe like, well, I can't remember the figure, but some people have been recaptured, and manhunt is currently on the ground. Trying to recapture most of those inmates. I hope that they are able to, recapture these people and send them back to where they are for the crimes that they say they committed, so that they are away from the sane people in the society. But given the number of inmates that escaped, I don't think it's enough to start another type of crisis in Borno State. Borno has witnessed a whole lot of insecurity situation in the past, and some part of Borno is still, under control of Boko Haram, and the security situation has actually spread across the entire country, not just the north. So I don't think there will be an additional security threat that those people will bring on board. I'm also believing that the Nigerian army has the capacity to actually deal decisively with some of these insecurity situation we're going through if the government give them the right support.
All right. So my final question on this, you mentioned so many donations from different individuals in the country, just trying to do something about this crisis. And has anything been done? Is the government doing anything? Is there any move to make the dam stronger, to reconstruct, or maybe to even help the citizens, maybe relocating them? Have we seen any action at all? Or is this money just going into people's pockets?
No, so in situations like this, NEMA is responsible for some of what you just mentioned as active measures on ground. And I'm sure that NEMA started some of those groundwork to see how they can relocate and how they are catering for most of the affected. Yeah, I think that is on ground. I think that is on ground.
All right, thank you, Stanley. So moving on to our last story, which is, of course, about Niger and the complete withdrawal of the US from Niger. So what do you think would be the immediate security implications for just Niger and then its neighbors now that the US has left? Do you think that Russia's support will be sufficient in helping with, counter fighting the extremist groups that are affecting and attacking the region or the country? Sorry.
Mm, no, no. So the removal of or the withdrawal of the American troops would see some insecurity increase in the Sahel because what the American forces have been doing have been, trying to repress the um, terrorist situation in the Sahel there. But I don't think it's be fighting on multiple fronts, and potentially trying to create even more wars for itself. So I don't think Russia alone has the capacity to handle that situation. However, if the governments of the juntas decide to go with Russia, then that's their own belief. That's the partner that they've chosen, and that's good for them, you know. But generally, I think that the fight against terrorism should be a collaborative effort. Every government should put hands together and exist from their region. So the U.S. withdrawing, it's sole decision of the Niger military leader.
All right, all right, all right. So, recently too, the United States supported the creation of two permanent United Nations Security Council seats for African states. Generally there's been this growing discontent and hostility towards the United States in amongst African governments, not all, but some. So, do you think that like sorry, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, all right, all right. So do you think that this
Hello?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So do you think that this action of theirs will move the needle in any way? Will it in any way help just help the image of the US amongst African governments and amongst African countries?
Um, it could swing some emotions. It could, but on ground is where the real issue is. The Chinese are on ground. America has or is gradually losing its dominance in Africa. The Chinese are everywhere. The Chinese are doing businesses. The Chinese are working freely. without security and bodyguards around and across Africa. So the Chinese are on ground, with the hope to displace America. There was a survey I saw recently that said the growing concern the of the youths in Africa towards China. It's actually growing. A lot of African youths believe that the Chinese are even more beneficial to them than the US has been. The US has always played, at that leadership level, but the Chinese are actually playing more at the grassroots level. So the effect of the Chinese is being felt directly by people at the lower ground. So they would most definitely be moving towards the Chinese. So it's left for the US if creating two space for African leaders in the Security Council. I know it will swing some little emotions, but I don't think it's enough, to counter the current, the way African youths are looking at looking at China and looking at America.
All right. Thank you. So we'll, as it is with this withdrawal, and then of course, different countries adopting military rule. Is it possible for the US to find more partners, like more countries to collaborate with in West Africa, or do you think that their influence will continue to decline across the region?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you hear my question?
Yes, yes. So I don't think it would be on a steady decline if the US begin to look for possible partners. If they do not do that, then it would be on that decline. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other West African countries and other African countries that are still willing to work with the US. So if the bargaining and the negotiation and the deals are right for any country, they can decide to be a partner with the US. But I would advise that when such is been happening, they should also, put into the negotiation how the US can actually impact their citizens locally, build factories, create jobs, and all of those things, and gradually I think the US can begin to play its way back into the hearts of Africa. Otherwise, the Chinese are actually doing some serious job.
All right. Thank you so much, Stanley, for participating in today's episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And to all our listeners, this podcast is by SBM Intelligence. You can access our podcast by searching for SBM Intelligence anywhere you find podcasts. For deeper insights into our work, please visit our website at sbmintel.com. And remember to connect with us on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn at SBM Intelligence. That will be all for today. See you next week. Bye.